I recently took a trip to New Orleans. I brought my gun with me. It wasn't that hard, but I'm going to walk you through the steps to take a gun with you via air travel lawfully and easily. Stick around. Okay guys, pardon the voice. I'm just getting over a cold and it's bad, so bear with me, I will do my best. If you are wanting to travel with a gun via air travel, you're going to need a few things. One, some sort of hard-sided case. This one's not a super expensive one. You could get a Pelican or similar, whatever your budget is. That case either has to have 2 locks on it, or it has to have the provision for 2 locks. In other words, 2 padlocks. They cannot be TSA compliant locks. I know that sounds crazy. You usually think, well, TSA, I should have TSA locks. No, not for this. Hard case, 2 locks, not TSA locks. Once you've got that, you're going to get your gun. You're going to make sure it is unloaded. That is super important. Anything that goes with it, magazines, those also need to be unloaded. The ammunition has to travel with you separately in a box that is factory or factory style. Now, I usually just use a factory box. That way there's no weird questions. I've had the guys at the counter go, because I have the blue ammo cases that you use for reloading. Occasionally they'll go, hey, that won't work, and you have to call a supervisor. Just get a factory box. It doesn't have to be the box the ammo came in, so the next time you are shooting, just save a box or 2. When you pack this all up, you can have your gun. You can have it in the holster that you are using. And magazines can also be in the magazine pouch, but like I said, unloaded. The ammunition, at least for the airlines I have flown, it can be in the same container, but obviously the gun may not be loaded. Once you've got that all locked up before you go to the airport, print out the TSA regulations and print out the airline regulations for the transport of firearms. It sounds redundant, but occasionally you get to the counter and the person behind the counter does not know the rules. They will tell you some crazy, crazy stuff.
Back in the day when my grandpa worked for the Pelican Oil Company, back in the turn of in the 1920 in that area.
You are going to have to correct them. Most of the time it's not an issue, but occasionally I've found myself in the unwanted position of having to educate the counter person. So be prepared for that. Before you even go up to the counter or the kiosk to check in any luggage, talk to one of the airline representatives who's standing around. Ask them, hey, I'm checking a firearm, what do I need to do? Because 9 times out of 10, if you go to the kiosk is going to kick you out and you're going to have to go check it in anyway. Once you talk to that person, a lot of times they're either going to send you to special handling or first class. And then you kind of get head of the line privileges. So in some ways, it actually makes it easier. Like I said, just make sure you have a copy of everything. Also review the airlines regulations. Sometimes they are more strict than the TSA regulations. They will never be less strict than TSA regulations. Sometimes they won't let you put the ammunition in the same container. The airline doesn't want that. You can put the ammunition in your checked bag if that is a concern. So just be aware of that. You might have to do that on the fly, but if you look ahead of time, it'll take care of you there. You tell them, they will check that baggage in that the gun is in. Then they will either escort you to TSA or they will send it to TSA and just tell you to be aware that you might get a phone call. Usually at Dulles, where I always fly out of, they just get a baggage porter. He carries your gun over there. He hands it to the TSA guy. They x-ray it. I always find that funny because I know there's a gun in there. You know there's a gun in there. We all know there's a gun in there. The bag gets checked. Normally after that, they'll just tell you, hey, it's good to go. Don't worry about it. When you get to your destination, it'll come out with all the other baggage, usually. Occasionally, they will pull it and put it in the office. But the past 5 times I've flown, my luggage with the gun in it comes out on that conveyor belt. You take that gun and then you proceed on your way. Now, depending on where you are, I have actually departed before I've gotten into the transportation or gotten a car, gone to the bathroom, loaded my gun, put it on, and then gone about my business. If that is something you want to do, just go to a handicap stall, be discreet about it. I've never had any issue with that. If, however, you don't care to do that, you can always wait till you get to your hotel room or your friend's house, your final destination, and take care of it there. I almost always have a gun on me, and I like to have a gun on me when I'm traveling. Not that I'm going to go out and try and start fights or get into trouble, but like I said, the most recent trip was New Orleans, and that can be a rough town. I like to avoid trouble when I can, but if trouble comes and finds me, I like to have all the tools necessary to deal with it. One final tip that goes kind of along with this, if you want to bring a pocket knife with you, which I almost always do, I'll usually take that knife and put it into the case. That way, when I pull out my gun, I also have my knife. And I've never had anybody balk at that either. That never seems to cause a problem. Now, I cannot guarantee you, like TSA, baggage handlers, whatever, but it seems to me that a nice pocket knife, along with the gun in a non-TSA lock case, has a much better chance of withstanding airline travel and baggage handling, coming out the other side without that knife being lost or stolen. So that is my general thought when it comes to that pocket knife. Heck, you could also put any other valuables that you don't want to have on the plane in that box, because like I said, from my perspective, I think that is probably a higher level of care than just being loose in your luggage. Lastly, I have to tell you that a few times I've flown out of Dulles, showed up with a gun, and the person behind the counter literally didn't know what to do. They had to call a supervisor. There's a whole mess. So if you're going to check a gun, just to be safe, I would go to the airline, or I would go to the airport much earlier, probably about a good 45 minutes earlier than you even would anyway. 9 times out of 10, that is not necessary, and then I just sail through everything and it's not an issue. But for that one time where it turns into an entire log jam and they can't figure it out, guys, if you show up early, there's usually no issues, and if there are, you have time to deal with them. I hate running down the concourse. That sucks. Last note, this is the gun that I always travel with. It is a Glock 19 and it is a Gen 5, but it is not horribly modified. Has an optic and a striker control device on it. I don't know if you can see the back end of it, that this piece right here, where when you press the trigger, that comes out. This is literally all of the modifications I have on this. Yeah, there you go. You can see it move, maybe. Yep, that's it. The only mods. I don't travel with a super Gucci gun. Like, this is still a decent amount of cash, no lie, but I would rather cry over $800 or $900 worth of gun than $3,000 or $4,000 worth of gun. Not that I've ever lost a gun in transit. Usually, I think the gun would get there probably before the rest of my luggage, even if they screw that up, because this always gets special handling. Just some thoughts, guys. Once again, apologize for my voice. It's been a rough few days, but I did want to put this video out in a hurry. That poll that I posted, everybody's like, hey, we want to know about guns in the TSA. So if you've never traveled with a gun before, as long as you can have the gun where you originated from and where you're headed to, good to go. If your connecting flight is through New York, a little extra warning. If your connecting flight is through New York, I would be extra wary, because if they dump you out there and you have to take charge of that gun, the New Yorkistan loves to jam people up. Hey, I know you were legal where you were coming from and where you're actually going to, but here in New York, you're not, so we're going to give you all kinds of grief. And that has happened to more than one individual. Usually with a lot of legal persuasion and lawyers and stuff, you can get it rectified, but connections through New York when you're carrying a gun absent law enforcement creds are a big no-no, guys. I'll tell you that right now. I'd rather you be safe than sorry. But anywhere else, like anywhere in the normal United States where normal, sane human beings work, this methodology will work for you absolutely fine. Now, last, I'm not a lawyer. I'm definitely not your lawyer. If you have any specific weird legal questions when it comes to firearms and travel, your best resource is probably the internet. Your second best resource is going to be an actual lawyer. Understand that I'm not in the business of giving legal advice. This is just how I travel with a gun. I've never had a problem, even when I did not have any special credentials. When I was just Joe Schmo who had a concealed carry permit, this worked and it continues to work today. I can't remember the last time I had to show any special credentials when it came to airline travel and checking guns. I've never had to do it. So hopefully this works for you. If you have any questions, comments, or you think I'm completely wrong, hit me in the description or the comments below. I will put in a couple of links to some cases that I like. You can always go over and above what I have done, by the way. I've seen people, not only do they have an unloaded gun, but they put a cable lock through it. If you want to do that, guys, that's totally cool, but I have not bothered doing that in the past several years. I used to. I should mention that you're going to have to open the case at the counter because they're going to make you sign something and place it into the box. That is it. They'll ask you if it's unloaded, but I've never had anybody want me to physically demonstrate that it's unloaded, thank God, because I don't need to have weapons handling happening at the counter. I'm going to end this here, guys. I don't want to go any further and my voice is about to give out, but I did want to do this video and release it soon. So take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Get 'em, Jay.